Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 52 in the book of John. Today, it's going to be about refusing to be snatched. So we're in a hard passage today on a beautiful morning. And how do we know it's a hard passage? Well, Jesus actually tells us that it's a hard passage, and the disciples clearly say it's a hard passage. So Jesus knows that people are going to turn back and no longer walk with him because of what happens in today's passage. So, but he doesn't back down and he doesn't negate the truth of the teaching. So we did this yesterday a little bit, same story about the bread of life, and it made us squirm. Remember what he was talking about eating the flesh of the Son of Man, drinking his blood, feeding on his flesh, drinking his blood. And he's using physical things, these metaphors, to teach us about spiritual realities that we need in our lives. We need to relate to these. Now, it's not an easy thing. So the squirmy way of saying what he's trying to say is we need to participate so intimately in what he's talking about, participating in his crucifixion and in his salvation. And it's akin to eating his flesh and drinking his blood. So we have, you can have a crucifixion count for you, a penalty for sin count for you, even though you didn't have the crucifixion happen in the first place. So that's done by belief and faith and eating this truth and participating in it by drinking. All right, so let's find out about how people in the story responded. This is John 6, chapter 6 and verse 60. All right. When many of his disciples heard it, they said, "This is a hard saying. Who can listen to it?" But Jesus, knowing in himself that his disciples were grumbling about this, said to them, "Do you take offense at this?" "Yes, I do." "Then what if you were to see the Son of Man ascending to where he was before? It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh is no help at all. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life. But there are some of you who do not believe." For Jesus knew from the beginning who those were who did not believe and who it was who would betray him. And he said, "This is why I told you that no one can come to me unless it is granted to him by the Father." After this, listen to this. This is verse 66, 666. After this, many of his disciples turned back and no longer walked with him. They gave him their back. Verse 67. So Jesus said to the 12, "Do you want to go away as well?" Simon Peter answered him, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life, and we have believed and have come to know that you are the Holy One of God." Jesus answered him, "Did I not choose you, the 12, and yet one of you is the devil?" He spoke of Judas, the son of Iscariot, for he, one of the 12, was going to betray him. So let's talk about some of these bad responses that these guys have. Bad response number one is unbelief. So Judas, good example of that. Jesus knew about him from the beginning. He knew about his unbelief. He knew about his betrayal. He knows about Judas, and yet he walks the walk with him for 3 years in unbelief. Every time seeing the purse and being disappointed as he stole from the purse. So that's number one. Number two is grumbling. It's people that take offense. They say, "I can't listen to this." So this might have been some of the disciples that actually stayed. Remember, we talked about the Yelp reviews of God as he offers this bread of heaven. We did that over the last couple of days. And he offers one thing that we desperately need. And yet people say, I didn't like the place. I didn't like what God is offering. So bad response number three then is many turned back and no longer walked with him. They literally gave Jesus their back. And they said, "No, that's too much. This is too hard." You know that when you would go before a king or a ruler, sometimes the tradition was you would actually back out and not, you wouldn't turn away and walk up because that's disrespectful. You would continue to face the ruler even if you were leaving him. But here, they give Jesus their back. And they say, "No, this is too much. It's too hard." So perseverance in the Christian world is the test of reality. So you might conclude that they were never in the kingdom to begin with. So down the road in John chapter 10, a couple chapters down the road, we'll learn that Verse 27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish, and no one will snatch them out of my hand. So we learn in John chapter 10 that true believers are unsnatchable. But I'd like to kind of flip that here today and also say that true believers refuse to be snatched. They don't walk. They don't give Jesus their back. They don't disrespect their sovereign. And Jesus doesn't change the teaching. He doesn't water it down and say, whoa, I didn't mean that, or you get a lesser dumbed down version of the gospel. No, everybody agrees. This is hard. Jesus agrees. The disciples agrees. Everybody agrees. But you must keep hearing, keep walking, and keep your back from facing the Lord. So in conclusion, be aware that this is hard. No, don't be surprised. Don't turn back. Walk with him and refuse to be snatched. Practice unsnatchability. So how do we do that? We'll come back tomorrow. This podcast is sort of meant to be a daily thing. And practice the ministry of showing up. So who's going to be the main recipient of this ministry of faithfulness that you're going to practice? Well, you are. So let's ask the question, what do you do when it is hard, when adversity comes? I suggest readiness. Ask, are you ready? Ready for hardness, ready for adversity, ready for temptation, ready for attempted snatching? If your answer is no way, I'm not ready, well, again, come back tomorrow. That's the process of the spiritual walk. So let's say you hear this and your feet are doing fine. You're in the spiritual butter tub of grace. You're sipping your coffee and everything's fine. Well, let's humbly recognize that hard teaching is coming. Hard character tests are coming. The gospel is the hardest way in the world, except for all the other ways. So the big conclusion today is what Peter gives us. And he says, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. In other words, he's saying there is no plan B. There's no other way to heaven, no other way out of sin, no other way out of the grave, and no other one that I want to be in relationship with for eternity. Peter verbalizes his desperation. So the spiritual walk is a persistent, unwavering, directional walk to God and with Jesus. I think Psalm 73 says it best, verse 25. Whom have I in heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth that I desire besides you. So today, let's listen. Don't grumble. Keep walking. Don't give God your back. And for you, come back tomorrow. We'll see you then.